a very common objection against the existence of God is the idea of bad design. Now, this is one of these arguments which is very easy to dismantle. Now, the way that, or actually, before we actually get into the argument, I find it kind of funny that Darwinists, they claim that there's nothing in the theory itself and they themselves aren't there to undermine the existence of God. Yet at the same time, they use this argument from bad design. Now, the problem with the argument from bad design is it's not purely a scientific argument. It is actually fundamentally it's a philosophical argument, but it's mixing oil and water. It's mixing bad science with bad theology. So here's how the argument goes. We have something in nature, say women who are barren, and therefore they cannot pass on their genes. This is clearly bad design. Now, from the Darwinian paradigm that we are here to survive and reproduce, and our traits are there to facilitate that, whatever level of understanding of whatever level of trait we're speaking about, whether it's biochemical or anatomical. So everything really should be optimum. Of course, I'm not saying they all believe, because we believe in constraints, obviously, but ideally we shouldn't have things like women being barren. So if that's the case, then clearly from their perspective, they think this is bad design. Now, the problem with that idea is that there is background assumptions involved. And these background assumptions are not of a scientific nature, they're of a philosophical nature. So let me explain that in terms of an example. Say there's two people walking past a building. They walk past this, they're on holiday in Greece, say, and they walk past one of these old buildings built by the Greeks, and one person walks past and says, this is bad design because, the foundations are starting to sink, and, maybe this beam, if it was made stronger, it would have lasted longer, and so on and so forth. This is bad design. His friend next to him says, actually, no, I think this is good design. And they're arguing. Now, obviously, there's some background assumptions involved in both of their paradigms. So one may assume that this building that we're walking past, this was designed to last 500 years, and we're walking past after, say, 400 years, and the building's already starting to show that it's crumbling, so it's not good design. His other friend may assume this building was only designed for 500 years, and we're walking past after 2,000 years, so clearly it's fit for purpose, it did what it's supposed to do, and afterwards it's crumbling. So what? It's still good design because it's fit for purpose. So the background assumptions of these two people will dictate the way they look at the evidence. Now, when Darwinists say this is bad design, they're obviously, in terms of a woman being barren, they're obviously referring to the fact that from their perspective, everything should be for their to facilitate our fitness for survival and reproduction. So a woman not being able to give children is obviously the exact opposite of what they would, from a natural selection point of view as good design. Now, from a Quranic perspective, God says in the Quran that whoever he wills, he gives males, whoever he wills, he gives females, whoever he wills, he gives males and females in terms of children, whoever he wills, he makes barren. So from a Quranic paradigm, we're not here for a cosmic party, we're not here to boogie, we're not here to live our lives, be completely happy, live forever, live young, have no problems whatsoever, always be in a constant state of bliss. That's actually paradise, that's not actually life on earth. So God tells us in the Quran that he is going to test us with good and evil. Good and evil is part and parcel of this life. Suffering is actually just the way that things are, and in Islam, we throughout our lives, we're going to be going through suffering in terms of wealth, health, a whole range of things. So from a Quranic paradigm, a woman being barren is not bad design, but from, say, a paradigm of a hardcore militant Darwinist who believes everything should be there purely for survival and reproduction, that is bad design. So both of these background assumptions, whether the Quranic or the Darwinist, or the guy who believes this building should last longer than 500 years, or that we're walking past after 500 years, and the one who assumes we're walking past before 500 years, these are clearly background assumptions which dictate the way that you view the evidence. So on the minimum, what we can say is this argument from bad design is not a scientific argument. It's actually mixing oil and water. It's bad biology with some bad theology. You cannot use that as an argument against God, because if you are going to make an argument from bad design, you have to make it very clear who you believe the designer is and what their intention is, and why what we see in the world contradicts the intent of the designer. So if somebody is going to use the argument from bad design, they can't just point at something and say, okay, that's bad design. They have to explain why they believe that is bad design by being clear about their actual background assumptions. So on the minimum, this argument does not undermine the existence of God. I hope through this short video you've understood that this very popular argument, which is used against God, is fundamentally not a scientific argument.